When you think about communication, what comes to mind? Most people think of talking, words flowing from their mouths. But communication goes far beyond just talking. It's about connection, it's about understanding, and it's about sharing thoughts and feelings in a way that builds bridges, not walls. You've probably been in situations where a simple conversation turned into an argument, right? Maybe it started with a small disagreement, but before you knew it, you were both shouting, frustrated, and not getting anywhere. That's the thing about communication. It's so easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment and lose sight of the real goal, which is to communicate effectively. Let's think about this for a moment. Why do arguments happen? Why is it that two people can be having a simple conversation, only for it to escalate into something bigger than it needs to be? Well, the truth is, communication isn't always about what you say, it's also about how you say it. When emotions take over, whether it's anger, frustration, or even hurt, we tend to react without thinking, and that's when things start to go sideways. When you approach a conversation with the intention to communicate effectively, you're creating the possibility of a more positive, productive interaction. It's not about winning, it's about understanding and being understood. So what does effective communication look like? To start, it's about active listening. Have you ever been in a conversation where the other person wasn't really listening to you, but instead was just waiting for their turn to speak? That can be frustrating, right? You feel unheard and the conversation goes nowhere. Active listening is the opposite of this. It's about being fully present, paying attention to what the other person is saying, and focusing on their words, their tone, and their body language. When you listen actively, you're telling the other person that you value what they have to say, and that builds trust and respect. But active listening isn't just about hearing the words, it's about understanding the meaning behind them. People often express their emotions through words, but sometimes the words themselves don't fully capture what they're feeling. That's where your ability to pick up on nonverbal cues becomes important. Pay attention to the person's facial expressions, gestures, posture, and even the tone of their voice. These are the emotional cues that can give you a better understanding of what they're really trying to communicate. When you listen for these cues, you gain a deeper insight into the other person's feelings, which helps you respond more empathetically. Now, let's talk about your response. Once you've really listened to what the other person is saying, it's time to respond, and the way you respond is just as important as the way you listen. When you're communicating effectively, you want to make sure that you're expressing yourself clearly and respectfully. This means avoiding things like blaming, criticizing, or interrupting. Instead, try to communicate your thoughts and feelings in a way that invites dialogue, not conflict. For example, instead of saying "you always do this," try saying "I feel upset when this happens." This shift in language creates a less confrontational environment and opens the door for the other person to share their perspective without feeling attacked. Another key element in effective communication is staying calm. It's so easy to get caught up in the heat of an argument. But if you want to keep things productive, it's important to keep your emotions in check. When you remain calm, you're able to think more clearly and respond more thoughtfully. This doesn't mean you need to suppress your feelings, it just means that you can express them in a way that is composed and respectful. The goal is to focus on the issue, not the emotion. When you focus on the issue, you shift the conversation from a personal attack to a problem-solving discussion. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation where things just keep spiraling out of control? Maybe both sides are getting louder, maybe things are being said that you don't really mean. That's when it's time to pause. Sometimes, the best thing you can do in a heated conversation is take a break. Give yourself and the other person some time to cool off and collect your thoughts. When you come back to the conversation after a brief pause, you're much more likely to approach it with a clearer mind and a more open heart. One of the biggest mistakes people make in communication is assuming they know what the other person is thinking or feeling. We all have our own perspectives, and while it's easy to assume that someone else thinks the same way we do, the reality is that we all have different experiences that shape how we perceive the world. Instead of assuming, ask questions, seek to understand where the other person is coming from. The more curious you are about their perspective, the more you can learn from them and the better you can understand the situation. This not only helps you communicate more effectively, but it also helps you avoid misunderstandings and assumptions. Effective communication is also about being mindful of your body language. Have you ever noticed how much can be said without a single word? Your body language can convey just as much, if not more, than what you say. If you're crossing your arms or avoiding eye contact, that could send the message that you're closed off or defensive. On the other hand, if you're leaning in, maintaining eye contact, and keeping an open posture, it shows that you're engaged and willing to listen. These nonverbal cues play a huge role in how your message is received. so it's important to be aware of how your body language aligns with what you're saying. Another aspect of effective communication is timing. Sometimes, it's not the words that matter the most, but the timing of when you say them. There's a time for everything, and knowing when to have a conversation is key. For example, if you try to talk to someone when they're stressed, distracted, or in a rush, the conversation may not be as productive as if you wait for a better moment. Pay attention to the other person's emotional state and choose the right time to communicate. By doing so, you create a better environment for the conversation to take place. It's also important to express appreciation and gratitude during conversations. A little acknowledgement can go a long way. When you show the other person that you appreciate their input or that you're grateful for their perspective, it creates a positive atmosphere. This makes the conversation more enjoyable and less likely to turn into a confrontation. Small gestures of kindness, like thanking someone for sharing their thoughts, can make a huge difference in the outcome of the conversation. Lastly, effective communication is about being open to feedback, and not just giving it. Often we think about communication as something we do to express ourselves, but it's just as important to listen to the feedback others give us. When you're open to feedback, you show that you value the other person's opinion and are willing to make adjustments if necessary. This helps to create a dynamic of mutual respect and understanding, rather than one person trying to dominate the conversation. When you focus on building these skills, active listening, clear expression, staying calm, timing, and being open to feedback, you'll find that your conversations become more meaningful and productive. You'll be able to connect with others on a deeper level, and even when disagreements arise, you'll be able to navigate them with respect and understanding. Communication isn't just about talking, it's about connecting. When you learn how to communicate effectively, you're building stronger relationships and creating an environment of trust. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, because you will learn a ton of information in the next video.